I vow to keep classified royal family information veiled in secrecy for as long as I live.
A few days after VELL turned 16, they were refitted for new uniforms. Their delivered sets came with an additional item, winter coats lined with fur. Yahshi couldn't help but smile as he tried his on for the first time, as there was something rewarding about lasting at the academy long enough to witness a change in season. It was also nice to have Pinto back in good spirits. After getting some much-needed rest, he had stopped obsessing over the unsolved Bayan case and had even thanked Salen for knocking some sense back into him. On the first day of their 8th month at the academy, the trainees encountered their coldest day yet. Pinto struggled to button his coat with his trembling fingers as they walked down the staircase together.
Worthless, flimsy thing? I hate this coat.
If it's worthless, get rid of it. I'll gladly take another layer.
Pinto gave up, leaving his coat half-buttoned.
At least with your coat on, Professor Ember won't point out.
Don't say it.
At least she won't point out how tight your shirt is.
Yahshi laughed, and VELL looked away to conceal her grin.
That was one time, okay? I have larger shirts now.
I'm surprised you didn't get smaller ones to show off. Now that you finally put on some muscle.
Don't be gross.
Come on, Pinto. Show us your arms.
Do you have abs now?
Just shut it. All of you. Why don't you pick on Yahshi for a change? He's finally taller than VELL.
How embarrassing.
What a loser.
I don't even know why. I'm friends with him.
What? You three are bullies, you know that? I really hope I get filtered soon. I could use the peace and quiet.
As they stepped into the bone-numbing dining hall, Yashi's eyes narrowed at the vast window, blaming it for the room's poor insulation from the weather. Despite his trembling discomfort, a warm smile spread across his face as he realized that all 4 seats of their table were filled. On his first day in the program, he never would have expected to make so many close friends. He felt like he reclaimed a piece of himself he had lost after the incident, a piece that he missed. After clearing their plates, they drank their beet juice together. It had become a recent tradition of theirs to chug the nasty drink in unison. Yahshi set his glass down with a scrunched nose.
The taste never gets any better.
So, what's your assessment?
Pinto's reactions to the serum had improved, but he still suffered from a mock sunburn and shaky arms when exposed to a new dose. He sat sideways in his chair and crossed his arms, ensuring Yahshi couldn't cheat by watching him. Salen smacked his lips together, silently composing his own answer.
There's Belladonna.
Is that a statement or a question?
Statement?
Wrong.
Really?
Pinto turned in his chair, revealing his red face.
Because there's definitely a dose in mine.
He held his hands up to demonstrate their shakiness.
Are you sure you're not cold?
But of course I'm cold. But I'm definitely poisoned too.
You know how Dr. Blim feels about...
Fine. I'm definitely intoxicated. Is that better?
I have a feeling there's serum in mine too. But I can't tell for sure.
Hey, VELL.
KO called her from across the room.
Is there Belladonna or not?
Everyone seems to think so. I don't know.
A befuddled look crossed KO's face.
But you always know.
There's Belladonna today. I'm sure of it.
When QUAX set his empty glass down, Pinto's eye widened.
Oh, no.
What? What is it?
It's a filtration.
And as though it were on cue, the door opened and Dr. Blimmery wheeled a cart into the room.
Congrats on 7 months in the program, kids. Even if you get filtered today, I bet you'll always have the coolest stories to tell over supper. All right, here's the deal. Half of you had serum in your drinks, and half of you didn't. If you think yours had no Belladonna, move to the left. And if you think yours did, move to the right.
VELL was the first trainee to stand. She peered down at Yahshi and Salen, willing them to make the right choice, before walking to the left side of the room and planting herself by the window. Pinto stood next and made his way to the opposite side of the room, claiming that his juice did contain Belladonna. Yahshi and Salen made eye contact, equally panicked.
We're shaking.
Our symptoms never show up this quickly anymore. It must be the nervousness. And the cold.
Unless we were giving a higher dose than usual.
Yahshi rubbed his forehead.
Make your choice, left or right.
SUNNA joined VELL on the left. His symptoms usually mirrored Pinto's, but SUNNA's face wasn't red.
Okay, let's think this through. There's 7 of us, but Dr. Blummery said half.
So, 3 drinks had Belladonna, and 4 didn't. Or 4 drinks had Belladonna, and 3 didn't.
VELL and SUNNA are definitely correct. Left is solid.
QUAX strode to the right with KO lingering in his shadow. Salen's gaze followed them as they walked toward the wall.
We know Pinto's correct, too. I also trust QUAX. He seemed confident earlier. KO, though, he's a wild card.
It doesn't make a difference. If Kiehl's wrong, the room would still be split with 3 on one side and 2 on the other. Only flipped. It doesn't affect our odds.
So what now?
Yahshi stared at the table, envisioning the different possibilities.
There's 4 potential combinations. I go left and you go right. You go left and I go right. We both go left or we both go right. In 2 of those options, I'm on the left, and in 2, I'm on the right. So...
There's a 50% chance that one of us wins.
And a 25% chance that both of us do.
Is that really all we have to work with?
At this point, it's a guessing game.
He regretted not putting more effort into honing his detection skills. Now he was betting his spot in the program on the flip of a coin.
I go right, you go left?
Deal.
Salen mustered a smile.
Make your choice now, please.
As Yahshi approached the glass, the paralyzing fear gripped him, causing his steps to falter. He eventually came to a halt next to VELL and closed his eyes, bracing himself for the worst-case scenario.
One of you kids is incorrect.
The blood rushed to Yashi's head, leaving him faint. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think, and for a moment he thought he was falling because he could no longer feel the floor beneath his boots. VELL took his hand into hers and squeezed it before letting go, grounding him back in reality. But the warmth lingered in his fingers for only a moment before Dr. Blimmery's returning voice extinguished it.
Salen, I'm sorry, kid, but you're out.
No.
Yahshi opened his eyes. Salen was frozen on the opposite side of the room, his face ghostly and pale. Pinto gave him a pat on the shoulder and whispered what must have been a goodbye. It was game over.
A guardian is waiting in the common room to escort you home.
Guilt clawed at Yashi's chest as Salen trudged his way to the door. They had both made a guess, and Yahshi knew that the only way for this outcome to be fair would be if he stepped forward and filtered himself too. But instead, he wallowed in the knowledge that luck had favored him, and his own selfishness left him repulsed. As Salen shut the door behind him, Yahshi leaned forward, his hands gripping his knees. Relief washed over him, which was immediately countered by the rocky horror of having lost a friend. These emotions drew arms against each other, leaving him torn, struggling to choose a side once more.
The final filtration will take place 2 months from today. There will be 5 spots and 6 of you left. So expect this to be your most competitive test yet. We're removing afternoon field classes to extend your recreation time. Use it wisely. I'm sorry, everyone.
Yahshi slowly straightened his spine as Dr. Blimmery left the trainees alone in the dining hall. He faced VELL, and she shook her head before wrapping her arms around him.
I made a guess.
I know.
Yahshi thought of Salen often. Well, at first. But as time passed, the guilt faded. He realized that he was, quite literally, lucky to have made it this far into the program. And he was not set on taking that luck for granted. He needed to make the final 5, not just for his own sake, but also to ensure that Salen's filtration would not have been for nothing. In research classes, Professor Ember shared the schematic diagrams of the most important Guardian buildings in Vakoi City. Yahshi studied them until he could draw each floor by memory.
You finally did it.
It only took me 3 weeks longer than you.
Professor Ember then moved on to reviewing the lives of every emperor in the Vakoi lineage. Yahshi speed-read their biographies nightly, and he began to understand the previous rulers as well as he understood himself. In medical class, they moved on from their Belladonna unit to a unit on tool development, crafting, and lacing. On the first day of their unit transition, they walked into the lab to find arrows resting on their tables, each one with a unique structure. KO chuckled as he examined the arrow in front of him.
What's so amusing to you, KO?
This arrow. It's stupid.
How so?
It's too long, too heavy, too flimsy.
KO bent the arrow, demonstrating its lack of sturdiness. Dr. Blummery raised a brow and gestured for him to continue speaking.
I'd shorten it for sure. Maybe down to about 2/3 of its current length.
Why?
It'll wobble less in the air, obviously.
Meaning?
It'll fly farther and faster. More precise, too.
Dr. Blummery puckered his lips with a nod.
Good job, KO.
KO looked around to find the other 5 trainees staring him down.
How the hell did you know that?
It's only common sense.
KO's natural talent for tools was undeniable, and his fellow trainees began to flock to the lab during recreation time, competing to match his level. While Pinto, VELL, and QUAX eventually diverted their energy to improving their other deficits, Yahshi and SUNNA continued. Over the course of 1 month, Yahshi crafted 12 daggers with progressively smoother and straighter blades. SUNNA, on the other hand, crafted 16 daggers, all sharper and stronger than Yahshi's, with intricate designs carved into their handles that grew more refined and beautiful with each piece.
Yahshi, please stop wasting your time with SUNNA. I doubt the final filtration will test our crafting skills.
How can you be sure? It's the crucial skill in the medical division.
Hey, can you still draw those schematic diagrams from memory?
Yahshi leaned over with a hand on his forehead.
Oh, for the glory of...
It was a balancing act. Improving one skill meant getting rustier with another. Together they walked the same tripwire, waiting for one trainee to slip and leave the other 5 victorious. During their defense lessons, each trainee worked individually with Commander Roz, who led them through fast-paced drills using their primary tools. It was about 3 weeks before the final filtration when SUNNA accidentally swung his sword into KO's shoulder. KO fell to his knees, blood spilling across the black floor. The trainees had seen their fair share of injuries during their time in the program, but this was by far the most gruesome. As SUNNA fell into a state of hysterical panic, Commander Roz calmly insisted on transferring KO to the city hospital, which KO physically resisted.
No! I'm staying. You can't take me there.
You're injured. You need help.
Oh, shut it, Pinto. You want me gone? But I won't go that easily.
They all knew that getting transferred to the hospital meant getting filtered, and KO was in the program to win. They were all in the program to win. The night before the final filtration, Yahshi found himself tossing and turning in bed, unable to sleep. Giving up on rest, he stepped out onto the balcony, dressed in his golden pajamas. As he gazed up at the full moon, he thought of sailing for the first time in weeks. Yahshi gripped the icy railing, shivering at the thought of losing another friend. But what terrified him most was the possibility of being the one who had to leave. If he were to return to Citra, he would lose not just one friend, but all of them.
Close to graduation and close to each other. That's a recipe for disaster, isn't it?
Hey!
Yahshi!
Yahshi looked to his right, then his left. VELL and Pinto were standing on the balconies of their own quarters.
Really? Both of you?
Can't sleep.
Tomorrow feels like a death day.
Don't be dramatic. We worked hard for this.
So have they.
VELL hoisted herself onto the balcony railing and stood tall, her gaze fixed on the stars. The wind picked up, sending tendrils of hair whipping around her face, but she held her balance with ease. Knowing this could be their last night together, Yahshi pushed his dread of tomorrow aside and followed VELL's lead, climbing onto his own railing. When he looked to his left, Pinto was already perched on his, and together they walked the Academy's tightrope, admiring the glittering sky above them and making it their own.
The past 2 months have been tough.
The worst.
If only SUNNA brought that sword just a little bit to the left.
Pinto swung an imaginary sword in the air.
Right through KO's head.
You're horrible.
The stars twinkled a little brighter that night.
I'm really glad we went through this together. There's no one else I would have rather suffered with.
I love you too.
Final 5, right?
Final
Final five.
five.
Belladonna, Book 1, Nightshade Academy. Written and narrated by Torrefranca. Produced by Torrefranca and Wilson Hensley. Edited and mastered by Juan Pablo Diaz.
How did we get here? Something went wrong. We worked hard for this life that we don't want at all.
Cover art by Mad Studio. Score by Gita Puspita Asri. Theme song composed and produced by James Sinclair-Stott. Starring Jason Brown, Anthony Andreas Echeverri, Philip Kryanov, Melissa White, Alex Bowie, Patrick Viersba, Julia Risto, David John Bors, Connor Blunck, Kody Kiehl, Ellie Chua, Ben Autry, Walter Mack.
If it's really true that the sky weeps with us, if it's really true that heroes live in stars.
Featuring the voices of Gwyneth Evans, Jeff Rosenau, Lucas Hensley, Levi Titus, Angie Eggers, Willem Digard, Allison Prophet, Maria Palmo. Nightshade Academy is produced in association with Lost Island Press.
If it's really true, if it's really true. If it's really true, if it's really true. If it's really true, if it's really true. If it's really true, if it's really true.